Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, How Asset Management Firms Can Optimize Marketing Performance and Increase Client Acquisition. My name is Joe Paone and I'm a Senior Manager of S&B Marketing here at Marketo. Today I'm joined by John Kariotis, who's a partner at AmberLeaf Partners. AmberLeaf is a customer experience management and business intelligence full-service consulting firm. They specialize in providing solutions across strategy, process, technology, and change management services, focusing on ways companies manage relationships with their customers. Providing blended operational and analytical solutions, AmberLeaf leverages functional expertise to help firms become fact-based, decision-making organizations. And as I mentioned, John is a partner with AmberLeaf responsible for running customer experience practice, where he works closely with clients, in particular financial services firms, to develop the strategies, processes, and deploy the right technology solutions for the ways that they market, sell, and service their customers. Now, before we begin, we have a couple housekeeping slides. This webinar is being recorded. Slides and recording will be sent to you after the webinar concludes. If you have a question, please use the chat box and we'll get to your questions after the webinar. If you're posting to social media, use our hashtag MKTGNation. And finally, there's a brief survey after the webinar. Please take time to fill that out. With that, let's get going. So we've got quite a lot to cover today. As you can see by our agenda, I'm going to start off by going through a quick industry overview, and I'll touch on some of the current challenges that you may be experiencing in the asset management space. I'll then pass it on to John, and he'll go through 3 strategic marketing themes. He'll talk about marketing operations and marketing technology. Then he'll cover internal shared services versus outsourced shared services. And finally, he'll end on considerations and decisions that you'll need to make. So when looking at the state of the asset management industry today, from a client acquisition or retention standpoint, there are really 3 primary things to consider. First is your client's reality. Second is your challenge to meet that reality. And third is how can you create a path forward to bridge the gap between your client's expectations and your ability to execute on those expectations. Now, in the old days, cold calls, referrals, and office visits may have been adequate for acquiring new clients. And then on the retention side, it may have only taken quarterly or yearly check-ins, which could be done by either office visits or on the phone in order to keep clients happy. But why is there an increasing risk now? Because clients are expecting more, and there's a lot more money in motion, as you'll see shortly. Asset managers need to respond to growing client expectations or face the risk of losing them permanently. So to illustrate that, we are on the precipice of an upcoming $58 trillion wealth transfer from one generation to the next, where 90% of heirs will change advisors afterwards. And in addition, clients are now expecting more personalized communications than ever before. In fact, 25% of investors leave their asset manager after just 2 to 3 years. And according to a survey of 1,375 advisors conducted by FA Magazine, the number one reason for this was a failure to communicate on a timely basis. Now put that together with the fact that 80% of under 40 investors indicated they would leave their asset management firm if it fails to provide an integrated channel experience, and it's easy to see why it's more important than ever to provide clients with a digitally connected, holistic experience. So your challenge is rather large. First, how do you get clients to choose your firm and stay with you? Second, how do you be most relevant to them? And finally, how do you execute and measure this at scale? And it's especially difficult when it's a really noisy world out there. Investors are being bombarded by more than 2,900 messages per day on average. This noise has also created a world of information abundance, meaning clients and prospects are more empowered than ever before, and they're armed with this info they can form opinions and draw their own conclusions well before they even choose to interact with you or your firm. So in fact, if you look at some of these data points from folks like Forrester, they say that anywhere from 66 to 90% of a buyer's journey is self-directed before they even interact with you at all. And when these potential clients do decide to interact with you, at every stage of the interaction, 87% of them demand a meaningful, contextual, and relevant experience. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to John to talk more about the 3 strategic marketing themes that asset management firms are following today and how leveraging them can help you with some of these challenges that we just discussed. So John, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. What we're seeing are 3 main themes that asset management companies really are following today. At its core, we're looking at evaluating what we refer to as enterprise or an engagement platform. And what that means is that these functions that will help distribute our marketing efforts, whether that is distributing campaign, the creation of the content, how we segment the content itself and the list that we're looking to be able to market to, whether that's prospects or customers, and really enabling that to those in the organization, whether that's frontline organization folks or those within a centralized component of the organization to help effectively manage and communicate at a corporate level. What that is leading us into, building on some of the things that Joe was just talking about, is channel of choice. As we provide more and more customers to be able to be self-directed and choosing the channels they wish to engage with you, gaining a deeper understanding and analytics into cross-channel understanding is becoming critically important. What that also leads us to is into looking at the way that we understand our data and understanding the capabilities by providing and integrating our marketing technologies with the interactions that we're looking and tracking with to align them with the likes of relationship management systems and other aspects of the investment portfolio to be able to get a holistic view of those customer interactions. However, what we're seeing are 2 critical paths that asset management companies are really looking at in terms of executing that marketing strategy. And really what we're doing is balancing how many different factors they're making in terms of the decision to stay with the current path, but consider migrating toward more common modern trends that improve both operations as well as technology. So if we look at it with regards to marketing operations, we're considering trends and looking at evaluating trends in terms of a shared service model, or whether or not we're continuing with a distributed service model as well. Shared service meaning the sense that we're providing capabilities around managing our marketing operations, whether within an organization or even outsourcing that to other more niche organizations that are focusing on marketing capabilities. We're distributing that service within inside the organization as well. Either way, we're looking at whether organizations are considering operations both in-house as well as outsourcing. We'll dig into that and unpack that in a second. The other component of that organizations are considering is really around the technology. Today we've got multiple different applications providing different marketing capabilities, and whether or not we should consider integrating those tools to gain a full understanding across these different channels and across the different experiences of how we're communicating to our prospective customers and our customers. Or evaluating looking at a complete engagement platform, and there's benefits to both. Like the operational components of it, technology is also looking at whether that they're outsourcing and managing this in-house. When we take in terms of consideration of marketing operations, we're recognizing several trends as we unpack that even further. With the distributed service model, depending on the size of that firm, similar marketing activities are being performed separately within the organization or within the business units themselves. And the execution of those operations are being run either individually by different people within business units or inside the component inside the organization itself. And what that forces us to be able to evaluate and look at is the overlap in the different marketing operations that are being taken in place in other parts of a larger organization that are done by as an asset management company exists inside of it, or inside different groups inside an asset manager in and of themselves. It introduces additional costs that are being incurred related to duplicate activities, as well as licensing structures that the technology manages. It also looks at evaluating the decentralization of some of that data that we're understanding from our marketing efforts and how that might be spread across business units that we're not necessarily taking advantage of. And integrating and bringing those up together forces us to look at the distributed service model even more closely. Some of the trends that we're seeing really focus more around shared services. And what that means is performing similar marketing activities across marketing campaign development, list management, content management, et cetera. Those channel strategies, though, remain inside the division or inside the organization. However, the execution of the operations are consolidated and shared across different divisions or across different groups inside an asset manager themselves. What this is introducing is consistency in the operations, as well as consolidation of costs and contributing to overall company savings. Also, these trends are allowing us to be able to recognize, by centralizing some of the marketing data, we're able to gain a better understanding of what insights we're having about those customer interactions, as well as how we're marketing and effectively communicating the information we want to with them. Those lead us to be able to introduce new best practices and improve practices around marketing performance tracking, permission-based marketing, as well as then other activities that can be shared across the company. That breaks down to the knowledgeable resources that can provide marketing services to multiple different divisions, as opposed to having to build that competency within a division, within a company in and of itself. And then also helps us be able to support peaks and valleys that we recognize within demand of trying to get marketing information and communication out to our prospective customer base or prospects that we're dealing with. When we take into consideration the marketing technology, we're seeing a couple of different trends in that space as well. When we're looking at one of those trends in terms of improving existing tools, and that is by building enhancements into the tool set that we have today. But we are recognizing duplication of functionality when decisions are made across different technologies that marketers have offered inside the organization. Functionality might overlap with one another that could drive additional cost. From a technology perspective, integration between different applications are also factored into what we need to be able to support the desired capabilities that marketers are looking for. So some of these lack of functionality in the current tool sets today might be augmented with additional tools, yet we might have to integrate those data sets in order to be able to understand the full picture of the effectiveness of how we're marketing to our prospects and clients today. Also, we have taken into consideration of the social distribution of that content across platforms and how we're able to listen and monitor those capabilities and what we're doing in response to what we're understanding from them. Some of the trends we're seeing in terms of enterprise or an engagement platform are really introducing organizational advantages that are promoting the cost of economies of scale for different savings across an organization. These full suite engagement platforms are consolidating campaign and lead management activities, the execution of building and creating content, as well as distributing the responsibilities across an organization. What we're recognizing is that helps facilitate closing marketing and tracking, and that's really improving and providing lead scoring and nurturing across the different ways that we would execute a specific campaign. In addition to that, what that's doing for us is providing insight into cross-channel analytics. And what that does is really helps us to understand how we want to be able to market what we're doing and then push it across and distribute it across multiple different channels, whether that's through email, our outbound activities, or social components, which are more and more relevant today. This also helps us be able to automate some of the processes that we're doing with inside marketing by providing marketing resource capabilities in the hands of our marketing efforts today. Consolidating IT resources and reducing the number of training, how much we have to train, and the cost of training, also some of the benefits that we're recognizing in some of these single platforms that we're dealing with. So when we take a look at traditional asset management companies, marketing operations function introduced itself to have a couple of different functions as well as and then the activities that are supported by the different resources in the organization. We look at about the 5 main functions from a strategic perspective, where the likes of a VP of marketing or a director of marketing, the marketing managers are looking at developing those marketing strategies and the different kinds of content and briefs that are going to be going out. But we also then are recognizing the functions inside these organizations to be able to do around analytics. In other words, performing a deep analysis of those marketing trends so we can understand how to manage and analyze some of the marketing data that we've been learning on our own or pending from other organizations, other institutions, to be able to get smart about what we need to market and how we're dealing with it. And really that helps us coordinate the different kinds of resources as well. And the likes of a data analyst or a data scientist are responsible for some of these functionalities. Reporting then is also another function that typically an asset management company are looking at from a marketing operation function perspective. Whether that's developing operational supports or coordinating with that data analyst to understand what we're understanding in terms of the effectiveness of the campaigns that we're running. Typically, report developers for responding, taking on those responsibilities in and of themselves. Some organizations don't even necessarily have some of those reporting capabilities, so it's putting in responsibilities into some of the operational folks within an organization that they may have other responsibilities and duties for. The other function, though, is around really campaign management, how we're actually creating the content as well as executing that content itself, whether that is the wholesaler inside that organization effectively running the campaign themselves. And then management of the technology. We have to take that into consideration as well from an asset management company and the operations that they run, as well as then the vendor relationships or the multiple vendor relationships depending on the distributed versus shared service capabilities that the organizations are facilitating. Now, if we look at it from a case perspective, we're looking at a client perspective where an asset manager sits as a business unit in a larger financial institution that might have investment management, wealth management, other capabilities within inside it. And we're recognizing these functions where within inside the business unit and the focus around asset management is truly keeping the strategy of how we want to market the IP and the content that we have. So developing those marketing strategies and those briefs tend to sit within inside the business unit. However, what we're sharing internally within inside the organization is the benefit of the analytics, how we'll be able to perform deeper analysis, not only within what we have to offer, but other information that might be gathered in a grander institution in of itself. And we're recognizing that data analysts and data scientists then are benefiting from sharing that service within the larger organization internally. But some of the distribution around the execution of the campaign as well as the reporting capabilities are staying within inside that business unit of itself. And that benefits us because they're putting more of the power in the hands of analyzing that information to help influence what that strategy needs to look like so they can continue to refine that. But we're sharing responsibilities across the campaign management function. What that means is that organizations and an internal shared services are actually building the content in terms of the framework, the images, and managing the overall campaign execution aspects of it, but distributing some of that functionality within inside the business unit so they can add their own IP and pull from existing information and existing material and existing structures and frameworks that might be developed in the internal shared service. But what they're looking to do really is get away with managing the technology and let the shared service manage that marketing technology as an asset management business unit, but that might be providing marketing capabilities across other functions within the organization as well. Another example that we're seeing with clients here is the outsource. If an asset manager is the only function of the organization, and that it is just an asset management company not sitting within a larger organization itself, some of the shared service capabilities that we're recognizing is really outsourcing a lot of that functionality. So the company itself develops a strategy of how they want to go to market, what they want to be able to communicate. But the likes of the analytics, the reporting, and even the creation of some of the framework on the content can be outsourced. And they're recognizing that creating the IP and what they should be, what they're good at, and then outsourcing the functionality around actually managing the campaigns and the technology that's supported by that is better well served by the likes of consulting organizations and agencies that help be able to provide that better aspect of those functionality. However, the execution of some of those campaigns, they do want to keep internally. They want to understand when, they want to understand how to be able to execute those different campaigns and where they need to be able to make those tweaks associated to that. So when we take into some of the considerations and the decisions that asset management organizations are making, we're looking at it from an operational technology perspective. One of those that we're taking into consideration revolves around funding. Where organizations are asking, or the business units within inside the organization, how we pay for this, how we understand the right model versus distributor versus shared services, and how we might consider chargebacks and usage of a shared service, or should funds be reallocated from the business unit to marketing budgets to that shared service, or even consider a pay-to-play kind of model where that would be taken into consideration, where a business unit or a company is only paying for the services that they're using within inside from a marketing perspective, similar to the way you might incur your cost in an electric utility. But funding component of it really drives the policies and procedures and inversely drives the funding and how those campaigns will be prioritized within an organization. Shared services within a larger organization, business units want to understand how they're able to actually make sure that campaigns are prioritized and what service level agreements are being met. Likewise, an asset management company in and of itself that might be outsourcing it to a third-party provider also want to understand what those SLAs are going to be and how that might be applicable in terms of prioritization of getting their campaigns run, executed, and managed around that. So there's a request for that aspect of it, an authority to approve those campaigns and some of the other policies and procedures that tend to be needed to work through within either model that we're evaluating that we see the trend trending toward. Staffing is another area of it. So what people would be transferred across that shared service? In a larger organization that an asset manager might sit within, do I take people that I currently have and migrate them over into that shared service, or what other value can I provide those individuals to be able to do other functions for me within inside that business unit? Likewise, we might be able to eliminate some of those headcount as an asset manager, whether it's an outsourced third party or within an internal shared service as well. And then technology operations also. What are the right tools that are going to meet those shared service needs? And then how those functions within the organizations are shared to remain within the business unit. So if I'm creating a campaign across an engagement platform in and of itself that needs to be propagated across multiple different channels, what level of control do I have? And those are some of the aspects of the policies and procedures and how we're able to facilitate those that drive our technology and operations in and of themselves. Finally, from an operational perspective, what we're recognizing is that as asset managers consider improving marketing operations and investing in different marketing technologies, different benefits, potential benefits are spanning across resources savings, software consolidation that really help drive some of these efficiencies. From a cost perspective, companies are recognizing benefits from a shared service model by consolidating resources or similar activities within the business units and then migrating some of those responsibilities around. Once those determine some of those benefits, companies must define the number of resources that are working within the business units or that are performing similar activities, and then really help determine the potential benefit of consolidation of those within that shared service model. Once that's defined, some of those efficiencies can be extrapolated by reducing the duplication across the processes as well as the handoffs between each of those different groups. Now, from a software perspective and in technology, companies can benefit from a shared service model by consolidating capabilities across a software platform. So with the ability to implement more sophisticated campaigns, the shared service model should recognize and improve the effectiveness of those different campaigns across all those different types of channels. So, for example, time to market should shrink, generally up to 30%. So if it takes a week in order to be able to run a campaign, you might recognizing that coming down to only a few days in order to be able to get our marketing messages out across the different types of channels that we want to be able to get that messages through as well. But that recognizing from a benefit perspective would be better, more standardized marketing messages, as well as then the performance and metrics of what we're learning and to be able to feed back into developing those right strategies of the IP that we're trying to deliver and the way that we're going to communicate that content out through each of the different channels and when that's going to do. And within the ability of that shared service across the business units, then the organizations, and many of these organizations are recognizing how they can smooth out any of the peaks and valleys within the demand. So when they're running campaigns, how many campaigns they're running then would vary depending on the time of year, depending on the kind of market that we're trying to be able to manage against, and how that can be then shared across that and smooth out some of that leads and their responsibilities around there. So there's some of the benefits as well that we're going through and recognizing in terms of what we're asset managers and the way that they're managing both the marketing operations and technologies, leveraging some of the more modern ways of doing things today. With that, Joe, I'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thanks, John. And I'll end our presentation with a very high-level overview on what the Marketo Engagement Platform is. So it's essentially a platform that allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of all your prospects and clients. It powers personalized and authentic conversations at scale and builds lasting relationships. It's reliable, secure, and it scales to meet the demands of the largest global enterprises. And additionally, it's built from the ground up to be open. So that means it fits with all of your existing technology systems and gives you complete freedom with your data. So for example, if you are working with multiple different silos of data, using the Marketo engagement platform, you can use that to consolidate everything and essentially have just one view of your data. Then within that, our Engagement Marketing Hub is a foundation for our platform, which captures everything you learn about your prospects and clients across every channel and touch point. An automation engine then allows you to trigger simple or complex campaigns in real time and can automatically react to what you're hearing or anticipate the best response to your prospects or clients in the moment they're engaged with you. Finally, our adaptive engine takes anticipation to the next level by using artificial intelligence to recommend the best content for each individual, and our analytics engine gives you a broad array of business impact and journey metrics for your campaigns, leveraging the consolidated data in that engagement hub. So what does all that mean specifically for you as an asset management company? Well, at the ground zero of it, it allows you to automatically segment your prospects and clients based on demographics and behavior. It allows you to engage those prospects and clients throughout all market conditions with personalized and automated communications across every channel throughout their life cycle. And again, it allows you to create that single view of all your prospects and clients, no more siloed data sources. It allows you to prioritize sales and or wholesaler follow-up through lead scoring. And it also gives you a way to measure and track all marketing campaign effectiveness and prove ROI, which again, if you're working with multiple different silos, that's extremely difficult to do, as I'm sure you're aware. And then finally, at the backbone, it allows you to get the right message to the right investor at the right time. We also work with many different asset management firms. As you can see from this slide, we are a top-rated marketing automation platform. And with that, we are going to open things up to questions right now. We had attempted to keep this presentation to about 30 minutes. So John, I'm going to kick it to you right away with the very first question, which is what efficiencies can be implemented to streamline our marketing efforts for our investment programs?
Good question, Joe. I think that's it's pretty easy to answer. From an efficiency perspective, what we end up finding in the distributed model versus a shared model is that the setup, maintenance, and management of the campaign tends to be disciplines that can be more benefited from that shared model. So that level of efficiency of creating templates, from creating the execution, managing, the reporting aspect of all what you're learning from that, can tend to be really decreased by, as I mentioned earlier, up to 30% or more, to be able to recognize how we can get more campaign and more content out in a much more efficient manner.
Got it. The next question is, how do we prioritize what we need operationally to get started?
That's a good question. I think where you look at the core of what it is, it's the content in and of itself is the number one priority, and where and who is creating that content. What information are we looking to communicate, and the methods in which way we're going to be able to communicate that is what's most important to prioritize. The mechanics of actually executing the campaign itself tends to then come next. And so from looking at what information and substance of what needs to be communicated tends to be the priority around that. Looking at the likes of an engagement platform or looking at the different aspects of the tools that we communicate that message out then tends to then be the second level of priority.
Got it. This last question here, you definitely covered some of it, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case anyone else missed it. How do organizations or business units need to pay for their right model, whether it's distributed or shared services model?
Yeah, and that's always a wrestling match around the organizations. Again, depending on if the asset manager is sole function of the company in and of itself, or if it is a business unit or division within a larger financial institution. In In the latter aspect of that, typically what we're doing then is recognizing that some of the capital or the budget that division is actually using itself can be released or shared with inside that shared. So you're paying for that. You're paying for the service in and of itself. Now, where the wrestling match often then becomes in and saying, well, am I paying my fair share with other divisions within inside the organization? So in other words, I only run, I'm only taking 20% of the actual shared service using it. Should I be paying my fair share and only 20% off that? And that becomes something of an analysis that are propagated back in it. So the pay-for-play model tends to be something that becomes more and more interesting within those organizations. And where an asset manager, it sits as a sole function of the company in and of itself, technically that's sort of like a subscription-based service, if you will. So what they're doing is they're depending on the volume of what they're taking on and the volume of the kinds of messaging and campaigns that are being sent out. These third parties that are providing that outsourced service then pre-negotiated understanding of saying how much that execution of that shared service is going to actually be from an outsourced point of view. So they're typically paying on a monthly service fee that they know that up front. So.
All right. Well, with that, we are concluding our presentation for today. I want to thank you again, John. This was very enlightening, and I hope that our audience really enjoyed it. If you do have any additional questions, please feel free again to send us a question in the response at the end of the presentation, and we will try to have someone get back to you as soon as possible with an answer. But thanks again for spending some time with us today. Have a great day.